I did my first test outside last week, and I thought I had a good idea, but then I learned a few things during the process, and they actually led me to rethink the whole strategy of that video. So today I just intend to show you the lessons I learned and the setup that I used, and also that's the same setup that I will use next week or in the following weeks when I go outside again to do the next tests with actual antennas and devices. The test equipment that I want to use for my first set of tests, which is probably going to change because I do want to test a few different Alpha products as I go through this, but for now, with a baseline that I just want to test antennas, the equipment that I want to use is the following, and I'm going to put this on the screen now. So the first one is, just to be clear, I use an R36A router, which is not high-end, it is a decent router, 2.4 gig 802.11n. And it comes with its standard 2.4 gig dipole antenna. The idea that I have there is pretty much just to have a basic good setup, reliable but nothing over the top, so that I can keep the same router every time and use that for every test going forward. Obviously I have a tripod, so that's an easy one, and I'll use the same tripod again, and I'll just have to show something on the next screen. The test that I've done first, which is the one I'm showing later in this video, is just with my little laptop. My laptop has an Intel AC8260 and it has its own integrated antenna. So it's just stock standard module with their own laptop antenna, and that's the baseline results that I got, that I just wanted to show for having a connection. What I wanted to use, didn't use it in this video, just didn't get to that because of other issues. An Alpha, so the AWUS 036NH with its own antenna, 2.4 gig antenna, 2 dBi dipole. So nothing over the top fancy. First one is just get the range, get the software, get everything working. Now, I'm saying the tripod and I say the rock. The reason I'm saying that is it's pretty simple. There's a specific rock on the parking lot where I want to put my setup, and every time I go back I will put my tripod on exactly the same spot. So that rock is there, it's fixed, it's not going to move. So I will know that every time I go back to the site, the specific test site at Christie's Beach, I can put it at the same place. So that's why I call this slide the rock, because the rock is kind of my foundation for my point of my router. At the bottom I have a power supply, so it's just a UPS supply that gives me enough juice so that I can walk down the path and back and do a lot of tests without having to worry about that. Now the view itself, this is just for the sake of showing the rest of Australia. Hey man, South Australia rocks. Just look at what it looks like here. Anyway, next slide. So this is more the technically important one to show the route that I take in this case. I did a 500 meter walk. I did not lose my Wi-Fi, but I did have a few issues in terms of walking with my laptop in my hand on the sand, so that's probably not going to be what I do again. And I can see that I already have to go further than the 500 meter walk. So when I do the test, I'm going to set up myself in the parking lot, get all my equipment standing there, just have a little bollard or something around my equipment to say, you know, test in progress, nerd alert or whatever. And then I'll probably just take a long walk. I might even jump in the car and drive to the other side where I expect to start to see issues, rather than try to walk up the beach, because that's not working. Because as I say, I walked 500 meters up with my laptop and everything in my hand, and I still had a signal, and that's my laptop, and I expect to actually do much better than a laptop. And if I want to get to that 3 kilometer link, I don't expect to walk 3 kilometers before I start to see results. So that's just a lesson I learned. I could have said nothing and not have it on the video, but I just want to share my experience with you, because that's how I go for this, and hopefully we get better. The results itself, this is the test that I did. So this is a 500 meter walk and then turning back. So it goes up from a strong signal down to my weakest point, so then back against along. And you can see at the bottom there's a timeline. The timeline is from when I started, which was 20 past 2 local time, for half an hour walk back and forth. Those little dips I have that I marked with a red arrow, what physically happened is the sun was shining and I couldn't see what I was doing, so I had to turn myself around so that I could see what the reading was on my laptop. In doing that, I basically put myself in between my laptop and the router behind me. That at that distance, I guess in general, is significant enough that to see a significant drop in the signal level, which is interesting. It's not useful, but it is interesting because obviously I have 500 meter line of sight and it all looks fine, but at home you say, well, I have 20 meters, I can't get Wi-Fi anymore. What's the difference? It's because there's bodies, there's material, there's reflections, there's all sorts of stuff. So definitely the idea with my Wi-Fi test is it's the perfect line of sight. You could get up to a certain length with these antennas, and then the reality of life sets in and it's going to be shorter. More about that as we go later into the videos and even today. Now, what I have learned, really what I have learned. So I guess the first one is I need more batteries. Now the photo there shows that I walked my walk up and I came back, which was about 30 minutes. And when I came back, that's the scene I have to change the battery pack. Easy one to fix. I've done this already. So went on eBay, bought me 2 spare batteries. Obviously, I'm recording from the 3rd battery. So there's 1 battery. There's 2 fully charged ones. So that won't happen again. Next one, 500 meter clear line of sight is not enough. Laptop by itself was still working fine. That's obvious. So, well, it's obvious now that 500 meters and I still had a signal, so I still had nothing to show. All I had to show was it's still working, so there's no lessons to be learned yet. So I can expect to go 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometer even at the beginning of my tests if I start to put alpha in and then I start to swap the antennas around. So it's good actually. It shows that it's not just going to be a walk down the beach and back. It's logistically going to be a drive to the other side of the beach and then start to test over there. A review of software tools, RSSI and bandwidth. Now I have used a tool. It's probably visible on the screen what I used. I have another tool I'm going to use as well, which just gives me a better timeline view, so I could instantaneously see what I want to do, have multiple screens on one screen. So that's just a bit of logistics, nothing major. The output is still the same. The other one is the bandwidth tool. So I did use a LAN tool that I thought was going to work okay, but it didn't work. It gave me bogus results. So I just reverted back to what I could see is the best tool online is iPerf. I'm not an IT person by background. I'm more of an antenna engineer and a RF guy who likes all those kind of things. So I went for what they see to be called JPerf. So it's a Java version of iPerf. Just gives me a visual so I could see what my bandwidth is. I don't know if I'm going to use that when I'm out in the beach. I want to use, this is the next thing I want to do there, do a control test setup in the workshop first. So in the workshop, behind me I have a wall, and then outside I have put the router before. So I'm going to create a dummy scenario, which is a fixed known environment, and I'm going to force my router to, or my link to be at least minus 80 dBm RSSI. And then I can start to play with my values and do a comparison between RSSI and bandwidth and just have a bit of knowledge. And in this controlled environment, then I know with dipoles, that's what I get. The only thing I will change then, and this is the next video that's going to come as I say there on the screen, will be I have my fixed known setup, change one of the antennas, and I will see what the difference is going to be. Then change it with another antenna, again, going to have the same outcome. So then we have knowledge in the setup, and we have knowledge that this is what I can get. If I replace the antenna with that value or this new antenna, that's what I can expect. And then we go out to the beach again and we see how does that translate into actual distance for us. So it's going to be a two-step process. Probably that's the biggest lesson I learned out of this whole first exercise, and that's why I wanted to make this elaborate video, because it's a lesson that I learned that I want to share with you. It's useful to make the videos actually meaningful and constructive. And I don't just want to come out one day and say, there you go, use this, this and this, and we got to our 3 kilometer or longer. Hopefully I can get to 5 kilometers. I just don't want to get to the end result without taking that step going there. And my lessons that I learned, some of them might be silly, and some of the you guys might say, well, duh, that's obvious. To me, it is obvious, but you have to go through the process. I'm going through this process, and I'm putting it on the YouTube as well for everybody to learn with me. Thanks for watching. We'll look out for the next one. Bye-bye. Not work anymore. I think that's where I'm going to be. I will test it and see if I can get better. And there's somebody calling me on the phone, so I will stop now and I will come back to you soon. Thanks.